Hackamees School has kindy on site, junior primary school and primary school, 450 students at present. It is a disadvantaged school, so there are issues of poverty, social justice and the like.
I've been a classroom teacher for nearly 30 years, and over that 30 years I've adopted a lot of different teaching methodologies to enhance the children's learning. But in 2002 I went to a David Langford workshop. He said that all children can learn. Now, from my experience, that's not true. And I thought, if this man is right, I should at least attempt to do what he's professing and see if it does work. That's how I started my journey. The first thing I did with handwriting was I got the children to look at some neat handwriting and some untidy handwriting, and I got them to decide what neat handwriting meant.
Finger spaces, letters sitting on the line, tall letters touching the line, no spaces in the middle of the words, no scribble, capital letters are tall.
I put that information into a matrix. Then we went through the 4 stages of learning. The 4 stages of learning starts with information, and that means that you just know that it exists. The next stage is knowledge, and that means that you can tell someone about this area of learning. The third stage is know-how. That means you can use this area of learning and you can solve problems. The wisdom stage of the learning is usually not dealt with by normal teaching methodologies. Wisdom means that you know something so well it becomes an integral part of your life, or that you can teach it to someone. When a child gets to the wisdom stage of learning, they have truly digested the information and it becomes part of them. They got to a stage of wisdom, which meant all their writing in all their books had those components in them. In traditional methodologies, we often say, do this task, whereas in the David Langford methodologies, we say, what are you going to learn? It's learning oriented, not task oriented. Sometimes when people see my spelling matrices, they think it's a spelling list, and it's not a spelling list.
When you get it, you have to read it. Uncle Roy watched whole.
Well done. Now you can start learning to spell them.
And then you have to spell it.
Drastic. Magnificent, Megan.
Then you have to write sentences and spell it.
Usually my spelling lesson would go for, say, half an hour. I don't need to spend that time on it anymore. They do their spelling in 15 minutes. With the wisdom stage, they're expected to remember things forever, so it becomes part of them. Some children in their spelling matrix have trouble because they can spell the word on the matrix, but when they use it in their story writing, they get the word wrong. You have to say, the words on your matrix, you have to use them whenever you write. They don't make that connection themselves. When I get the children to learn their tables, the first thing that they do is that they just do the old-fashioned reciting their tables, because that covers the information part of their learning process.
2 2s are 4, 3 2s are 6, 4 2s are 8.
Then they get to the knowledge part of the process where they have to know about tables and groups of. They have to know that 4 groups of 2 equals 8, and 4 times 2 equals 8 is a short way of saying that. That's the knowledge section. The know-how section is that they can recite their tables without looking at them.
2 2's are 4. 3 2's are 6. 4 2's are 8. 5 2's are 10.
And the wisdom stage is that they can either say them really fast or say them in random order or remember them over a length of time. And then in the following days, in the following weeks, in the months, we revisit it. So they say them once, they might say them in 15 seconds. Their next target is to say them quicker, maybe say them in 10 seconds. And I can tell you this, they get very, very fast at saying their tables.
1 1 2 3 3 3 4 4 5 6 6 6 7 7 8 9 9 9 10 10. 6 seconds.
6 seconds, Campbell.
I always see them getting 6. 2 to 12.
The children develop a huge investment in each other's learning, and it inspires children to do better and better.
18, 10, 2 to 20.
17 seconds.
Oh! I'm getting better and better at every time.
It started in one class, and that's with Lindy, and then it moved into Joe's and Jan's class, because Joe and Jan were part of QUISP and her David Langford, and they worked closely together.
In my class I've got 25 children. I've got 3 year ones and the rest are receptions. Never before have I had so many receptions, and it would be at least half of them who are able to write a page of a story, and that's missing lines, write a page of a story almost independently. I've never had children who are as enthusiastic about writing, and the 5 or 6 children who I would say struggle are far more competent than the 5 or 6 children I've had struggling in previous years.
Let's just have a little quick run through of how people think they're going with their capacity matrices. The reaction of the children was just amazing. It was everything David Langford said it would be. I didn't really believe all that business about the intrinsic rewards, and I thought little children will still want their stickers and their, you know, pick from the lolly jar and so on, to motivate them to keep going. But it was just fantastic to see that the reward of achievement was the only thing they needed.
I feel good when I finish a sheet, and when I've finished a line of getting it all coloured like that one. It's a great way to learn, plus you can travel at your own speed.
I found that especially really bright children that, you know, you always felt you weren't doing enough for, absolutely loved it, because they could work at their own pace and just go as fast as they like and never have to wait for anyone to catch up to them. I found that the children at the other end of the scale that were having learning difficulties loved it, because they all of a sudden didn't have to compare themselves with anyone else in the class. That it was all just comparing themselves with their own achievement, and they loved it. And of course the kids there, the big bunch in the middle, really enjoyed it as well. Sound it out. Virtually every single child is working at an individual pace. Can you sound that out? It is far less work for me as a teacher, because kids virtually run the program themselves.
There are 5 crucial things that have to be going on in your classroom for it truly to work. The first thing is that you have to ask the children, what are you going to learn? The second thing you have to ask them is, how are you going to learn that? The third thing is, prove to me that you have truly learned that skill. The fourth thing is that the children have to be recognised for their achievements.
And how far did your graph
Every time they learn a new word, or they learn to write properly, they learn their tables, they have to be recognised for it. The last thing that has to be happening is that the children have to see their own achievement. Each time they do some work, they have to know that they have progressed, that they have learned something, that they've added on to their knowledge.
Oh, you're on brilliant, that's brilliant.
If you've got these 5 components in your classroom methodology, then you will see amazing results. Why don't you read this book for me, Hug Tight Sticky Glue.
Once a week on Wednesday, the Twits had bird pie for supper.
Mr. Twit caught the birds and Mr. Twit cooked them.
Mr. Twit was good at catching birds on the day before Bird Pie Day.
Usually in a Year 1 class you might get one child who could read the Twits, but I've never had a whole class who could read the Twits. I've got probably only 2-3 kids who couldn't read this. When I taught tables to a Year 2 class, I had amazing results with it. The numbers along the top stand for the table. The numbers in the box tell you how many seconds that student took to say those tables. I've never seen results like that in any school, in any class before. And in that class there were kids with learning problems. The kids who normally are successful at school, their work is amazing, of a standard 2 or 3 years ahead of themselves. And the children that don't normally learn in a normal classroom have learnt so that their skills are of a normal standard.
The bottom line is that those kids that would struggle have got a way better grounding of those basic words that they need, and they use them confidently daily.
I just remember the first concert they did at school, and Lindy had the children in the class afterwards. Do you remember that day? Yeah. And there was a video going and all the children were sitting on the floor, and there was our 3 children all bugging Lindy to get extra words signed off for that evening, all doing their matrices, and this was after school.
The children are engaged, they're motivated, they're in control of their own learning, they're responsible for their own learning.
The main thing that I've learned is that all the children that I thought couldn't learn, certainly couldn't learn to any sort of good standard, they can.
It's a lot more strategic, it's a lot more focused, and the kids absolutely love it.